purpose of this lesson is to learn what a direct or indirect object pronoun is and how to use them. First, we need to review what the purpose of a pronoun is, because some of you may have forgotten. A pronoun takes the place of a noun, and it's usually used to avoid repetition. Let's look at some pronouns that you already know. In Spanish 1, you should have learned subject pronouns, whether or not you learned that's what they were called. So you know yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros, vosotros, ellos, ellas, ustedes. Meaning I, you, he, she, it, we, y'all, or they. And of course the polite versions of you and y'all. These are pronouns that take the place of the noun that does the verb in a sentence. For example, yo camino means I walk. I say yo so that I don't have to speak about myself in the third person. Crystal walks just sounds weird. You are probably also familiar with some possessive pronouns. These are pronouns that stand in to show who owns or has possession of something. So you have mi, mis, tú, tus, su, sus, nuestro, nuestra, nuestros, nuestras, vuestro, vuestra, vuestros, vuestras, and sus again. So, for example, I would say again, these are my books. Estos son mis libros. So I don't have to say these are Crystal's books and sound like a crazy person. So here's the new stuff. I'm going to start with direct object pronouns. These are pronouns that answer the questions what or whom in a sentence. Alternatively, you can think of it as the pronoun that gets verbed in a sentence. Take, for example, the sentence, who saw the movie? You would ask yourself, in order to find the direct object, what was seen? The movie. So, when it's replaced by its pronoun, as a person might answer, she saw it. What was seen? It, the movie. It is your direct object pronoun. Here are all of the direct object pronouns that you might come up against, and there is a little song that will help you to remember what they are. It goes like this. Me, te, lo, la, nos, os, los, las. Me replaces me. Te replaces you. Lo and la replace him or it or her. Nos replaces us or nosotros. Os replaces y'all or vosotros. Los and las replace them or you in the polite form. The difference between the lo and la or los las becomes really important in a sentence like this. She saw the movie, which in Spanish is vio la película. Now, we know that la película is the direct object, so to replace it with a pronoun, we have to know whether it's masculine or feminine. Well, because it's la película and it's singular, we know that we need to use la to replace the whole thing. Your sentence to say, she saw it, would look like this. La vio. It is really important at this point that you take note of this. As you know, in the subject pronouns, él and ella can mean it. The direct object pronouns can also mean it. What's the difference? Well, remember, él and ella are subject pronouns, so they're the ones that do the verb in a sentence. So, it does is your example where you'd use él or ella. Lo and la, however, get verbed in a sentence. So, I sent it was sent. That means it's a direct object pronoun. Here's the next thing you might have noticed. Where do these object pronouns go? They go before the conjugated verb, after the infinitive attached to the command, unless it's negative. So here's the continuation of your song. You go, me, te, lo, la, before the conjugated verb, after the infinitive attached to the command, unless it's negative. Let's take a little bit closer look at that idea. Before the conjugated verb, here's what it looks like. If you have a sentence like, Tina prepara el postre, you'd say Tina lo prepara because el postre is masculine and singular. Use lo. Goes before the conjugated verb. Another example, ¿has visto mi reloj? No, no lo he visto. Lo replaces mi reloj, which is masculine, singular, and it goes before the conjugated verb. After the infinitive attached, here's your example, ¿quieres comerlo? Whatever it is changes to lo. It's attached to the infinitive of comer. Then attached to the command, hazlo, do it. Unless it's negative, no lo hagas. It goes between the no and the verb. You may want to take a break here because we're going to move on to indirect objects and their pronouns. Indirect objects tell for whom or to whom an action is done. Here are what the indirect object pronouns look like. Me, te, le, nos, os, les. So to me, to you, to him, her, or it, to us, to y'all, or to them. For example, le has dado tu palabra means have you given your word to him or her? Or have you given him or her your word? Where do they go? Before the conjugated verb, after the infinitive attached to the command, unless it's negative. Sounds pretty familiar, doesn't it? So hold on. I just gave you another option of the way to use the word it. So what we're going to do is we're going to break this down into different example sentences to make sure you know the difference. In every sentence, we're going to change the word greyhound to the word it in Spanish. The word for greyhound in Spanish, by the way, is galgo. Remember that, it's important. So we'll start with the subject pronoun. So if in an English sentence, I had the greyhound gives the bone to Crystal, or in Spanish, el galgo da el hueso a Cristal, we want to change greyhound to it. So the English version, easy. Just take out greyhound, put in it. It gives the bone to Crystal. We know this because the greyhound is doing the giving. It's the subject pronoun. So because of that, we know in Spanish we have to replace it with the correct subject pronoun, which in this case is el because it's a masculine noun. So the Spanish version is el da el hueso a Cristal. Alternatively, when greyhound is a direct object pronoun, like in the sentence, the rescue gives the greyhound to Crystal, the greyhound is what gets verbed in the sentence. What gets given? Greyhound. Okay, so now if we want to change the word greyhound to it in Spanish, we know that this gets verbed. You have to use the direct object pronoun to replace it. So we have el rescate da el galgo a Cristal, and then we have el rescate lo da a Cristal. Lo takes the place of galgo because it's a masculine noun. It's the direct object, so you need a direct object pronoun. And then, of course, there's that change of word order. So when it's an indirect object pronoun, you have to know that it's done. The action is done to the greyhound. Your keyword there is to, right before the greyhound. So in an English sentence, we have Crystal gives the bone to the greyhound. Easy, we just replace greyhound with it. Crystal gives the bone to it. However, in Spanish, because the action is being done to the greyhound, we have to use the indirect object pronoun. So, Crystal da el hueso al galgo. Al means to in Spanish. The sentence with the indirect object pronoun is Crystal le da el hueso. Le is the masculine pronoun. And then, of course, that change of word order there again. Now, sometimes several object pronouns show up in the same sentence, or just pronouns in general. Where do they go? They go in the same place as usual. So you go before the conjugated verb, after the infinitive attached to the command, unless it's negative. The difference is where they are put in relation to each other. To do this, you remember to get rid of your problem. Are reflexive pronouns. I stands for indirect object pronouns, and D stands for direct object pronouns. See the rid in that? Take the sentence, she gave it to me, as an example. There's no reflexive verb in that sentence, so you don't have to deal with the reflexive pronoun. However, it was given, so there's your direct object, and it was given to me, so there's your indirect object pronoun. If you get rid of the sentence, your order is RID. Indirect goes first, direct goes second, and then the verb, because it's before the conjugated verb. So watch this. She gave it to me. Understand? There's another rule here. No lay, la, lo. So lay and lace, those L's have to change to say when followed by a lo, los, la, or las. No lay, la, lo. So what do you do instead? You change the lay or lace to say. So in the example, she gave it to him, you have she gave it to him. Easy enough. So to remember everything, me te lo la nos os los las me te le nos os les before the conjugated verb after the infinitive attached to the command unless it's negative. And that's all you have to know about indirect object pronouns.